Well, I have one. I'd like to welcome David Cahill down there sitting next to Susan. He's the new representative or commissioner for Santa Rosa. And the joint commissioner has been approved by Santa Rosa and is on the agenda for December 11th for the county, and she will be approved then. That's Karen Schneider. And we will have a full commission finally. Yeah, woohoo, was right. Okay, public appearances. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. I wanted to thank you for having the Roseland Library open in Roseland now for 2.5 going on 3 years. It's been a wonderful gift in a way. And I was here last meeting with some other members of the community. We were advocating that there be some attempts to keep the library right in the center of Roseland. You folks probably look at it and think, well, Roseland is anything to the west of the freeway there. And it actually is only reaching over to Stony Point Road. I never made those jurisdictional boundaries. The county of Sonoma did. And so once you're at Stony Point Road, you enter what's called Wright, the Wright District, W-R-I-G-H-T. It's a full mile from the center of Roseland, 2 miles from the western boundary. And I understand that you have so many things on your plate, it's difficult perhaps to juggle them all. But I'm real concerned that you're not seeing the forest for the trees, perhaps. And that's what makes this current branch so popular is it's accessible right there in the center of Roseland, and people can walk to it really easy. It's across the street from Roseland Elementary School. And just in general, it's a comfortable spot. I know that you'll be looking for something that you, in a bigger picture that probably don't share with just us typical patrons, might see as more helpful. But as a patron who's been talking with the young mothers and the families that come and use that Roseland site right now, they're hoping that you folks will look at keeping it in central Roseland and not moving it out to the Wright District or somewhere else. And last but not least, I'm hoping that you'll have the ability to find out from the county when they'll actually be closing that one we're in, and we could have ourselves a bit of a community event there at the site. A thank you, if you will, for the good things that have occurred. I'm on the Roseland Village Steering Committee. It's kind of like a mushroom committee. They keep us in the dark and fertilize us every now and then and only show us the light when they're cooking something up. And it would really be nice if you folks would perhaps step up and say, hey, yeah, you know, let's do something to celebrate the fact that this library was in central Roseland for at least 3 years maybe, and then we'll all have ourselves a good time. Thank you for this time. I'll put this agenda back up here on the desk. It's good to always have them here.
Okay, is there somebody else that would like to speak?
Hello, and thank you for being here. I'm talking about the bilingual pay proposal. I would like to remind...
Excuse me, what is your name?
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Kelly. I work at Central. I would like to remind all present here of the statement of inclusivity that the Commission unanimously voted to adopt on May 1st, 2017, and incorporated into the library's mission, vision, and values. It reads, quote, public libraries have long been known as one of the truly democratic institutions. Public libraries champion First Amendment rights and promote free access to information for all. Public libraries offer services and educational resources that promote inclusion and diversity to all in the community. In light of the uncertainty many feel in our current society, we reaffirm Sonoma County Library values diversity, empowerment, community, unity, kindness, connection, and equity. Sonoma County Library provides services to all races, all genders, all sexual orientations, all religions, all abilities, all ages, all national or ethnic origins, all languages, all citizenship statuses, all economic statuses, all political affiliations, all people. Sonoma County Library is an inclusive community hub where people intersect and thrive. Libraries are for everyone. Remembering our commitment to inclusivity, how does the bilingual pay proposal affect the delivery of that commitment to the communities we serve and the long-term health of our library as a public institution? The public library has always been about people serving our communities with excellent service every day, and the library is no less about people internally too. If the Sonoma County Library wishes to be a sustainable organization that becomes and continues to be a valued and respected community resource, it has to plan strategically to create triple bottom line sustainability, part of which means that the library needs to take care of its workforce. I recognize how lucky I am to work in this beautiful place, in this overall very supportive environment. It's how I feel secure enough to be talking in front of you right now. However, if the library wants to support, grow, and amplify our reach to all communities here in Sonoma County, and if we truly want to stay true to our commitment that libraries are for everyone, the bilingual pay proposal needs to be carefully considered before proceeding. Bilingual staff attract the communities that speak their language. It does not matter that a branch thinks its patrons don't have much need to have a language other than English available to them. Once a bilingual staff member is present, communicating to the one person in the community who speaks their language and goes to that branch, it is a signal to the rest of the community that the library finally has adequate services and can support this community in their preferred language. And as for transferring and losing bilingual pay, in my mind, that just runs the risk of penalizing bilingual employees and limiting their professional growth and their freedom of choice and access in the library system, and also limits access to library services for the community in general. Thank you so much for your time.
Is there anybody else who would like to comment or speak at this point in time? Okay, with that, we will adjourn to closed session, and we will return as soon as we possibly can. Okay, we're all here and reporting out on the closed sessions. 4.1, conference with labor negotiator. We were updated on the labor negotiations. And on 4.2, consideration of appointment of permanent director. No specific action was taken. So, okay, so we're into open. Oh, that was, I did it. Action items by motion. 6.1, approving the audit for the 2018-19. I can't remember your name.
Kellen Gilbert.
All righty.
All right.
Okay, you and I guess maybe Ken might chip in.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
got
go ahead, Cal.
Slideshow she's going to fire up for you. Okay. So as I just said, my name is Kellen Gilbert, and I'm the senior manager on the audit for the library. Also, part of the audit team was Brett Bradford. He's the audit partner. Ray Pounds, he's the concurring partner and report reviewer. Kayla Martinez was the audit supervisor, and Brandon Serrano was the associate. And we like to start with this slide just to make it perfectly clear who's responsible for which aspects of the financial statements. So the financial statements are a product of management, their responsibility. Our responsibility as the independent auditor is to give an opinion on the accuracy of the financial statements. We consider things like inherent and control risk when we're determining which procedures to perform, all for the purpose of making sure that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. At the end of our risk assessment, we perform tests of year-end balances based on our risk, and we also review the adequacy of disclosures and perform tests of compliance. So what we consider during our risk assessment, we look at internal factors, the expertise of the accounting staff, turnover in key roles. We look at the inherent difficulty of the accounting balances that we're auditing, how complex they are, the volume of transactions, basically how susceptible would that account be to fraud or error. We also look at external factors, specifically for Measure Y. We look at the sales tax levels in Sonoma County. With the Measure Y, we also are seeing adverse effects on donations. So we try and keep in mind factors of that nature when we're looking at the financials. Sorry. So this is just a real generic breakdown of where our time and effort is spent. So cash and investments, it's a relatively easy area to audit, but it's also a very important area, and we obtain cash confirmations to support those balances from independent third parties. We spend a lot of time on revenue recognition, and accounts receivable, making sure that that's accurate and fairly presented. The financial statements themselves, again, looking at the presentations, disclosures, making sure that everything is in accordance with the standards. That takes a good amount of our time. Accounts payable and other liabilities, we're looking for completeness to make sure that all the liabilities that occurred in this period are recorded correctly. And then the pension and OPEB is also a significant area of our focus, especially this year, which I will get into in a later slide. And last but not least, the Measure Y compliance, making sure that, yes, sir.
Where's the other 5%?
Yeah, everybody loves to point out that the accountants cannot add to 100%.
I don't love that at all. I'm concerned. I assume there was a reason. You obviously know it's missing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of other factors that add up. And I always start the presentation by saying, don't hold me accountable. This doesn't add up to 100%, but I've used that joke the last 2 years in a row, and so I didn't want to repeat myself.
Okay.
But, we look at fund balance, other assets, smaller balances that make up that last 5% that we just don't include in there. And again, this is just a rough outline. It really doesn't quite break down in these lines, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. But I'm glad that somebody's keeping me on my toes. Okay, so for 2018, really wanted to punctuate the big ticket items here. And the main item for 18 was the adoption of the GASB statement number 75, which is the guidance on accounting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. And the adoption of that standard resulted in a $6.9 million beginning net position adjustment. And I just wanted to point out that while that is a beginning adjustment, it's not due to any sort of an error or anything that we've done incorrectly in the past. And by we, I mean Ken and the financial team. It's just the change in the standards is resulting in that increased amount. So again, no error, but it's a required change with that adoption. Yes, sir. So yeah, it's basically what that number represents is a liability that has been accumulating off the balance sheet or the statement of net position for the past few years that needs to be recorded. So it basically is a number that has been disclosed in the financial statements in the past, but wasn't actually required under GASB 45, which was the old standard, to be recorded on the statement of net position. So it's basically with the change in the standard, they want to have a more transparent and complete picture by requiring governments to report the full amount of benefits that the library would have to pay going forward for the employees under the OPEB plan. Does that make sense? Yeah. No, and it is an estimate. It's based off an actuarial report that the library has prepared, and there's a number of different factors. If you look at the disclosure that lists what the actuarial assumptions are, so there's quite a bit of uncertainty in that number. It's basically just an actuarial's best estimate at the time. One of the other changes is the change in net OPEB liability. It's another required supplemental information schedule, that's new for this year, and that's on page 46. That kind of shows you the change from 17 to 18. So again, this is just a little bit more information on GASB 75. It's resulting in requiring the library to record the full amount of the unfunded OPEB liability compared to just the cumulative annual OPEB cost that was previously reported in the 17 financial statements. And so that's why we're having that net position adjustment. And as I previously mentioned, there's a listing of the actuarial assumptions that go into that calculation on page 34. Also, as I said when I presented to the Finance Committee, that if there were any changes in the draft, I would let you know. So I wanted to highlight two changes. The first one is the inclusion of a schedule of Measure Y budget and actual. Governments are required to have this schedule for any major special revenue fund that has a legally adopted budget. So Ken pointed that out, that Measure Y has the adopted budget, so we've included that in the financial statements. And then also a reclassification related to the OPEB costs between the Measure Y fund and the general fund. So coming to the conclusion, we are anticipating to issue an unqualified opinion. The financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with the standards, so that's good news. And then these are some of the required communications that we as the auditors need to inform those charged with governance that we did not encounter any fraud, illegal acts, or any other material, significant, or unusual transactions that we're required to communicate to you. Again, continuing with our required communications, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal controls. There were no alternate treatments discussed, so that would be a situation where the accounting team might have had a different interpretation than we did, where management's bias might be able to have a difference of opinion. We didn't encounter any sort of transaction of that nature. And we didn't identify any other matters that would be required to communicate to you. There were no disagreements with management. And at the end of this, at the conclusion of the audit, we will be sending a letter basically formalizing these same conclusions. And if you have any questions about anything that I mentioned or any of the procedures that we performed during the audit, please contact me. I'll leave some business cards as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll leave these with you.
Okay. Comments?
I just wanted to thank you, despite the issue that you're having with your dad and the fires up there, and
thank you.
Got it all caught up and everything. We went through this at our Finance Committee meeting, and you were almost there despite all these other issues. And so anyway, this is the kind of audit that we love to get, which is everything looks great. We have a great CFO, great accounting staff. Everything looks good. Everything's clean, no issues. So this is wonderful news.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We're very happy, or I'm very happy to be presenting twice in 1 year. So it's presenting in December as opposed to February. We're really fantastic with the timing, really ecstatic with the timing of the audit, and the credit goes to Ken to getting us the information so quickly. Tom.
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission accept the basic financial statement for year ending June 30, 2018 as presented.
And I'll second.
You are the second.
Either.
Mackenzie.
Come on, I'm the chair of the finance committee. I should have gotten to get to it while I was with this audit.
Not so possessive. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the audit as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Unanimous vote in favor. And thank you very much, Kel.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All righty. And we don't have any lab appointments. At least I don't have any in my book. Library advisory boards are okay at this point in time. I don't believe we have a presentation. All righty. So we're moving on to commissioner reports. We'll start at that end with Stephen.
Yes, apologies, I didn't get anything in writing. It was a very good month. I was able to go to the CLA. Thank you to Susan for sending it out to us commissioners, inviting us. It was most awesome. I learned a lot. As I was saying to one commissioner, I spent 12 hours nonstop, no bathroom break, no food, going from one session to the next on one day. It was that awesome. So what the major takeaway that I took away, in addition to our Commissioner Doyle, who is just a rock star all the way around. I mean, like, she just lit the place everywhere she went on fire. So hats to you. Is the Pasadena Teen Mental Health Initiative. So for all of the things that we've been discussing about how we need to work with community partners, my hat is off to them. They were all young women of color, and they just rocked the entire presentation about how to work with government entities, electeds, to put the focus on our teens, and it's something our libraries can do. And I'm hoping that one of us can present more on it at some detail, but I just really love that out of all of the presentations. I was honored to be able to listen to our teen librarian from the Sebastopol Library, Rosalie, who co-presented to seek money from the Gravenstein Health Action Chapter to support our teens with a new teen 2.0 revisions for Sebastopol. So she was a total rock star. And since then, I've met with one of the presenters from last month from dealing with our archives, who's the president of the Genealogical Society, met with him, and then actually took the tour with a few other commissioners of the archives. I was hoping to see that on the agenda today, but I didn't. So I will be asking that that be added on for a status on each month until we can get some resolution on what we're doing with our archives. I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Andy?
This is just a quick summary of recent activities.
Yeah.
In the last month, I had a meeting with Sarah Vantries and John Haupt to identify priorities for the coming year. So thank you for providing that guidance, which I included in my email to Jane. Following up on that, I did have a meeting at Corazon in Healdsburg to talk with the director, Leticia Romero, about outreach that we could do to the Hispanic community, met with the Friends of the Sonoma County Wine Library, and also had an initial meeting and set up a recurring meeting schedule with Ray Holly. Ray, thank you for reaching out. And have continued to solicit input from members of the community about their recommendations for the Healdsburg Library and the library system as a whole. Thank you.
Randall?
Windsor has set up their Snoopy Christmas tree forest on the town green. There's 200 Christmas trees. The Friends paid for one tree, and the library staff decorated it primarily with 3D printed ornaments. And the big party is this Thursday night where Santa comes on the fire engine and the whole bit. So that's on the Windsor Green on Thursday.
Paul?
The Petaluma Lab did not meet in November, but there will be an open house at the Petaluma Regional Library on Wednesday, December 5th, from 7 to 8 o'clock. about the refresh. And the Nolan Tam, the architects, will be there, and they want to get public comment on what's going to happen there. So it sounds like a big party. It sounds like fun. So just wanted to mention that, put in the record.
My report is in the minutes, I think. I mean, in the agenda.
Okay, David, you're new. Do you want to make any comments?
I was appointed by the Santa Rosa City Council last Tuesday. I was sworn in on Wednesday. I've done a lot of reading, but that's it. So I don't have a written report.
Okay, Jason.
To say. Sorry I didn't get the written report into you, but I will make that a commitment next year. But a few things to report. Commissioner McKenzie and I met with a potential lab member at the Rohnert Park Cotati Library, and does not look like we'll be having our lab meeting next month on the 18th, or this month on the 18th. So that will be moved. I am going to the archive tour on December 3rd. On December 11th, I should be going to the Cotati's council meeting and updating them on the progress of our library progress this year. I also met with the branch manager to go over some highlights of the branch itself that I could present to the council. And I'm making a personal commitment next year to advocate more to community groups in the city of Cotati on behalf of the library. So that's about it.
All righty. Tom.
No report.
Thank you. You're going to call me, I guess. Barbara. Anyway, my report is on page 60 and 61. Been very busy, put in a lot of time on library activities. You can read them here if you're interested. And I would like to probably highlight the fact that on November the 15th, I went to an all-day AARP seminar on age-friendly and sustainable communities. And I think there's a great opportunity here for our libraries to work on with AARP moving forward. So I've been talking to staff about it, and Ray and Susan and so forth. So anyway, I hope that should be a new and interesting opportunity. I also sent an extended email to our council and city management about the new things that are happening at our library, which I forgot to list here. And we have our new digital displays. Thank you, Vicki and staff. And I'm just trying to keep our city council and management up to date on all the improvements as we go along. Thank you very much.
Okay, and as for me, I went to the CLA conference and had a fabulous time. I kind of ended up in different tracks, which was good. Enjoyed the ones that our illustrious commissioner presented. Learned a lot. The one thing I did want to talk about that I put in my report was about emails and about contact like that. Emails come in all different ways. There's one that came to all commissioners. I got one that came to myself and some of the staff. I got one that came to me alone. And, I got one that came to myself, and I don't know who else. Okay. So when an email comes in to all of us, we are one body, and I am the spokesperson for that body. And I'm the one that needs to respond. If you have comments or thoughts, we need to have you send them to Jane, because if you send them to me, we might get a serial thingy going that the Brown Act is against. Okay? So if you have any thoughts, send them to Jane. I usually wait a day or two to respond because oftentimes I either don't have the time or need to think it through. So there's usually time to respond. And it does get confusing. The Brown Acts really kind of damper some things. Okay. If an email comes to just you, you still need to check with me and talk with me because, number one, I may have more information that would be added to your response or might clarify your response. I may have gotten an email, such as one. I got one and another commissioner got the same one. I don't know how many of others of you were individually copied on it, but he contacted me and wondered what he should respond, and I told him I was already in the process of doing it. And so you need to check, because otherwise what we get are too many ideas going out there singly, and we still need to act as one body. That is the point of this commission. It's hard to do, but the same with, like if it comes to myself and the vice chair and staff, it's the same kind of thing. We need to check with each other to see who's writing and who's responding. And I'm usually the one that ends up responding unless there's something specific to the staff that needs to go out. And she or he, whoever they are kind of free of the Brown Act trailers because they're not part of the commission, so they can respond too. So I don't know if what I wrote out was really clear, because I was kind of sick with this cold while I was doing it, so my thoughts were not quite as succinct as they might have been. But I hope that kind of clarifies how we deal with these emails going through. And you need to always check to make sure that I didn't get one too, because like I said, one came to me, didn't have anybody else's name on it, but I also found it went to somebody else. We could have crossed and told her two different things or pieces of stories that didn't match. Who knows? But we need to be able to speak as one body and one person. Barbara.
Thank you. I'd just like to propose that we write up a formal protocol about this topic.
There is one. I just haven't given it to anybody.
So let's get it out, dust it off, discuss it.
Exactly, and I would second that, and I would like that on the next agenda.
Right, so a discussion about it, I think, and then formally adopt it, run it by general counsel, and make sure. I think there are some opportunities when commissioners can get copies of things. If we write on there, do not reply to all. The big part is we can't do the ongoing conversation, but we can be notified collectively about some things. So anyway, I would appreciate that we would agendize this for adopting a formal protocol at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's on the list. Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Okay. So we're moving on to the, where am I? Committee reports and liaison reports. Committee Director Evaluation. There is no report for that. We all know that the director, well, that'll come later. Okay, Finance.
Yes, Finance Committee report is on page 67. We had a good meeting at the, some of the other stuff we're going to talk about later. I did want to say that this was the conclusion of serving as 4 years of chair of the Finance Committee. At the end of the meeting, the new chair of the committee was selected, who's Commissioner Neff. I will continue on as the vice chair. I did want to, since this is my last opportunity, I won't bore everybody to death, but our committee started 4 years ago. It's evolved quite a bit. In the early years, we didn't have very much to say about the budget because there wasn't much money to spend. There was very little staff support, and we were writing our own agendas at home and all kinds of stuff. So we've really come a long way. We've been a very solid committee. We've met regularly, virtually every month, on the third Monday of each month at 3 o'clock. It's been a stable committee. Our membership has been stable, and our learning curve has been enhanced on topics because it's been a stable and ongoing committee. We've taken on responsibility of OPEB and the budget. We've had many accomplishments in the past 4 years, including a new fund balance policy, OPEB policy and recommendations. And again, thanks to our outside, those of you who are new, we had an outside OPEB consulting committee who worked with us and established a policy, and then we've implemented it. We're keeping a much closer eye on CalPERS. We had got a consultant report on CalPERS last year. We helped select the new auditors a couple of years ago. We've had an annual review of the draft audit. We have been updating our roles and we have written roles and responsibilities for the Finance Committee, and we've kept them updated. So I want to shout out, of course, again, Ken Niemann, our CFO, for always working with us and having great reports, timely and clear reports that we have every meeting. And so anyway, I'm happy to hand off the chairship to Commissioner Neff and look forward to continuing to work on the committee. Thank you very much.
Okay. The Advocacy Committee meeting was canceled because of the director's search that same day. So we'll move on to to the Foundation Liaison.
They merged November and December's meeting till December 5th. And I won't be attending December's 5th meeting as I had family obligations, and will make my January 16th my first meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, SOPs, they're in progress, but I still haven't given them to you. I will get them to you one of these days. Okay, Director Search Committee. We got, I believe it was 50, we had 53 applicants to for the position of Library Director. We, after the CPS, is that the group? CPS went through it. They eliminated all but 15. Then we went through, the committee went through the 15, and we narrowed it down to 10 people. One person dropped out, I believe it was like this. Then we had interviews of 9 people on November 12th and 13th, and we narrowed it down to 4. One person dropped out again. It was a Nevada lady. Oh, should I say that? No. Okay, never mind. It was a good move, though, for her. And we interviewed the 3 applicants this afternoon, and we are going to await the confirmation of the joint commissioner, and then we will make our final decision. So that's the Director Search Committee. Okay. Foundation Committee and Commission meeting has not met. Okay, JPA bylaws. Tom.
I think there's a written report in here.
Okay, and that's going to suffice? They met and they're making progress. Okay.
Could you go back to the Measure Y Oversight Liaison?
Oh, I totally skipped it. Excuse me. The Measure Y Oversight Liaison. Barbara?
I'm currently the liaison, I guess, until a new one's chosen. The only news that I have at all in Measure Y is I received a email that one of the members would like to preset all of the meetings throughout the year, and we haven't had a chance to kind of look at that. It's difficult for her in particular to just kind of be notified and then, come to a meeting. So I think that's something that we'll work on. But as far as I know, there's no meeting set, and the liaison will probably be changing from me to another person.
All righty. Okay, thank you, Jane. Commissioner Orientation Training Committee, we have not met because we have not had a commission to work with, a full commission, so that is going on the agenda, and we will get together for that and hopefully get some trainings going for you. Okay, and the Ad Hoc All-Day Lab Committee was canceled due to too many conflicts right before the holidays, and they are going to be sending out a doodle, and we're going to be setting that up. So.
And excuse me, Madam Chair, is there supposed to be a liaison report from the Roseland Coalition appointee? If so, it wasn't listed.
Oh, that was not included. Roseland Coalition liaison. Okay, yes.
Yes, I'm appreciative of the fact that we are going to get an update. I see one of our lovely staffers here. It has been very great, and I'm very appreciative of the Commission for this appointment. I did meet with the 2 representatives from the Roseland Commission and had a very thorough discussion about the fact that now is time is ripe to move and to be able to build partnership with the respective cities and counties to not only develop our priority one that we're moving on, but more to the point, a permanent structure. So it's all very exciting. After that discussion, I did meet with Lana and Councilmember Tibbs from Santa Rosa. We also had a very fruitful discussion about how to move things along. His idea is to not rely just on federal and state and city and county money, but to actually do a business district tax for that area. So it's very exciting given everything we've been talking about as far as the need to build partnerships. So some of us are reaching out to the big name places out in the county, the Kaisers, the Sutters, the this, the that, in order to actually start building momentum to have this happen. And being mindful of the fact that we're all very clear about the intent of the JPA, that we are not responsible for securing the building and necessarily like for the long term, a lease. We might be able to chip in with the Measure Y money, but we're very clear in the negotiations that that's not how the JPA is to be read. So I feel strong and confident that we're very clear with our messages on that. So that's my report on them.
All righty.
Is he talking about the foundation? No, he was talking about the coalition.
Okay, so moving on to the consent calendar 10.1.
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty, done. Action item by motion, approve the commission budget priorities. Okay, 11.1, it's Barbara, you're up.
Okay. As we did last year, we asked all the commissioners to send in their top 3 or so priorities to the Finance Committee meeting. And so the Finance Committee meeting met and ranked these, kind of combined them and ranked them and put them all together. It was pretty clear that we came up with, so we decided to do the top 4 this year. There's some detail on page 84 of your agenda. The first one was extending hours, and there were lots of thoughts about extending hours, and some of them are listed underneath there. More evening hours, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, Roseland, and so forth. So anyway, there were kind of some separate ideas about each of these priorities, but clearly the priorities were extending service hours. First thing to look at. Second thing, addressing the Roseland issues. Third, outreach and access, and that is more than to the underserved community, but outreach and access throughout the entire county. 4 is technology upgrades. So there's, again, like I said, if you look at page 84, there's some detail on those, but that was the pretty clear message we came up with through the Finance Committee on what our priorities were.
Tom?
And in item number 3, line 5, it says install 24-hour mini branch for self-mediated service. In the packet we had today describing our priorities for our prospective directors, the language was slightly different and it was vaguer. And I thought that was more appropriate than saying we want a 24-hour mini branch. It was a mini branch or, you know, other kinds of outreach type things. Maybe another van or something, I don't know.
Thank you for raising that, because I also had a question. I didn't even know what that meant, so.
Well, some of this language is submitted by us individual commissioners, and so we wanted to put a flavor down here of the information that we received.
I just think the language that we had in the packet that the candidates had was a little more general and better expression of the intent.
That was my item. And if we want to parse all the items as individuals, we can do that.
That's right.
Yeah, we can. We can parse each item if we like to.
But this is language from individuals. So yeah.
Just remember, this is one of the options we considered when we selected the mobile van. So it's not an option that we haven't considered, and the commission had been interested in considering it sometime in the future.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion?
I move, let's see, is this an action item? Yeah, I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve these 2019-20 budget priorities as discussed and direct staff to include them in the draft 2019 and to 2020 budget.
I second.
So who seconded? Paul? Okay. Paul seconded. Mackenzie moved it. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those against? Unanimous, pass. All righty, now the 3D printing policy. Lana?
Okay, good evening. Staff asked the Library Commission approve the 3D printer policy. The American Library Association recommends that any policy outline the following: rules and regulations concerning user access and training requirements. The use of the printer must comply with local, state, and federal law. The library is not responsible for any loss in the function or quality of a design or accompanying computer files, and the library is not liable for any violation of copyright, trademark, intellectual property, or trademark rights. In this policy, the American Library Association also recommended that we affirm our commitment to providing our patrons with the opportunity to explore new technologies, and this is similar to the guidelines we provide patrons in the use of our public access computers. We did get a request from staff for a more structured policy than our current policies allow for, and this policy will support staff in enforcing guidelines with patrons that limit the length of a print job, which can be quite long, number of print requests that we accept in a day and how we accept those, the amount of assistance provided to patrons in the development of the files, and then items that could violate copyright law or be a danger to the public. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the policy.
Barbara?
My question was, will this policy be posted, and where, and do patrons have to sign to agree to anything? And then now that I hear you talking about the length of the file, is that addressed in here, or the length of the printing process?
The policy will probably be posted on our public website like our other policies are. We already have an established page on our website for use of the 3D printer that sort of assists patron in the process. And I believe on that page we don't currently have at the moment a length of time. There are some general guidelines about that.
So this isn't going to be posted by the printer. I'm old school. I like, signs. I know everybody wants everything on the website, and that's fine. But if we have somebody coming in and using the printer, they're not going to go look at the computer to see what the policy is.
We can post it next to the printer. I think part of the use of technology is the enjoyment and the experimenting with the technology. We wanted to have the policy in place in case there are any questionable uses of the printer and to kind of safeguard our use of that new technology. So far, like I mentioned before, we haven't had that many issues with the 3D printer. We've had them for a couple years, but we wanted this policy, again, per recommendation of the American Library Association, and to kind of safeguard the library should any issues come up.
Tom?
I don't have any question about the policy, except at the item C3, you have an appeal procedure, and it doesn't say anything about if they don't like what the director says that they can appeal to the commission. And I'm not sure if that is kind of built into our system. We had discussed whether there should be appeals to the commission on other issues that patrons may have. And I'm just wondering if that should be in there, some kind of general policy beyond the director.
I think I might let Susan answer that in terms of what's in place with our other policies.
I probably should be more familiar with that than I am, but, I should be more familiar with that. The appeal language was inserted by the general counsel specifically. So I would certainly, we can either postpone this or you could move it forward, and I can check with the general counsel on an appeal process to the commission if the appeal to the director or designee isn't accepted, and it probably should be some standard language that we have in most of these policies.
Well, I was wondering if we shouldn't have a general policy for appeals to the commission from a director's final decision. That doesn't have to be repeated. We just refer to it and say that. And if you don't like what the director says, then you appeal to the commission, see the commission appeal policy. So we don't have to repeat it and everything else. We just have one place for it.
David?
Yes, I agree with Tom. I think we should have a plainly stated policy governing appeals from a director's decisions on all matters.
But my question, is that our job?
Is what our job? To have a policy governing appeals? Yes.
To handle appeals, or is it the directors? So that would be something to find out in the process.
Yes. If a recommendation comes to us that we never accept an appeal from the director, that's fine, and we could discuss it. If they say, yes, you should accept an appeal and provide language, then we can approve that.
Is it our job to do appeals?
And the answer, I would weigh in on this and say yes.
About the operations
because we can't, from a liability point of view, just leave it with the director. There has to be a workaround option to appeal to a larger body, and it just happens to be us. So that would be my opinion on this. But I do think that we should adopt what Susan had just referenced, the fact that we should move ahead with this tonight and approve it, and then work on the language from our council about the appeal process, because I think it is important from a public safety and also risk management point of view for us.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Jason?
Come again. So we want to revise all. I mean, how many policies are we talking about that we would revise to appeal to the board? What's typically done? I mean, do we not elect a director to make final decisions on our behalf?
That's kind of my thoughts, but I think we need to find out for sure from legal counsel and from what is a common practice in libraries. But I don't think it's our position to override what the director does in the means of operations.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessary. So I would go with Reese's suggestion, or Steve, combination with Reese's suggestion, move this forward and then get opinion of legal counsel.
I agree.
Research. Okay.
So do I need to make a motion?
Yeah.
Or?
Move. So, motion?
I make a motion. Okay. I make a motion that we approve the 3D
printer policy.
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve the 3D printer policy. In addition, clarify the library's function of appeal process. Should it include the Library Commission?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you want to ask if there's any no's?
Are there any no's? Excuse me. Okay, where were we? Discussion items, the interim director's report.
It's here. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. The one thing I forgot. Any public comment on that last item on the 3D printing? There's nobody here, I know, but.
There is.
Oh, yes. Okay. I don't hear anybody speaking. Okay, so, sorry about that. I haven't even written here. Okay, interim director's report, Susan.
It's part of the agenda, so unless there are any other questions, I'll just refer to the agenda packet.
All righty. Okay, management report, monthly activities. I'm not sure who's in charge of that one.
We're happy to answer any questions that commissioners have.
Okay. No questions? So we're moving on to the financial report. Ken?
Real quickly, the month of October, as we've seen, is, as you can see, it is a pretty normal month. The property tax budget continues to run in a deficit until we get the first payment in December. And the sales tax budget has a surplus right now as we receive those funds each month. There was really nothing out of the ordinary to report. But if anyone has any questions, they'll certainly address them.
Yeah. Barbara? Yeah, I just had one as kind of a thought/question. I was just told by our tax advisor to only pay one half of our property taxes in December. We usually would pay both halves. And because of the new tax law, I think that may happen, which might create kind of a lag effect. I mean, it won't change overall, but have you gotten any whispers from anybody about seeing less money come in December than we might have in the past?
No, I talked to the county last week, and they didn't mention anything, but we were just talking about what the overall taxes look like, not necessarily what the December payment would be.
Yeah. So county project any news,
They said they would get to me in the second week of January.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All righty. Thank you, Ken. Okay. Jamie, we are materials management overview.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jamie Anderson, the Collection Services Division Manager, and I'm pleased to be able to share this information with you tonight. Some of you might remember a few months back we had a presentation on our leasebook program, and there were some questions that came up at that time about how we manage our inventory and how much labor we put into moving materials around. So this information tonight will expand on that. So it all starts with selection. As a public library, the Sonoma County Library primarily provides current and popular materials in its collection, covering many subjects, viewpoints, and formats for all ages within the limits of our building space and our budget. Our collection is designed to meet the general informational, educational, recreational, and cultural interests of the residents of Sonoma County, which includes people of every age, ability, economic level, religious belief, and human condition. As you know, the library also maintains special collections, which contain materials specific to local history, genealogy, the wine industry, and other matters of local interest. And we are designated as the official repository for the archival records of Sonoma County. This is a pyramid diagram that you may remember seeing earlier this year. We call it the library tiers. So at Sonoma County Library, we've grouped our 14 branches into tiers for the purposes of developing and maintaining strong collections that are appropriate for each branch. For example, our Tier 1 branches, which are at the very bottom of the pyramid, are Central, Petaluma, and Rohnert Park. These branches are grouped together because of their large square footage and large circulation. As the 3 largest libraries in the system, it makes sense that Tier 1 branches maintain the largest and deepest collections, housing most single copy titles. They also serve as a countywide resource for the other branches, and they maintain some collections that you will not find at the other branches. Regardless of which tier a branch falls into, all branches have a strong core collection, and each library has a collection that's tailored to meet the needs of its unique community, including works by local authors and local government documents. So how does selection get done? We have a team of 5 collection development librarians at library headquarters who do the majority of the selection for new titles, and they approach it with a system-wide perspective. Librarians at the branches maintain their local collections by replacing worn copies, filling in collection gaps that they notice or that are brought to their attention by patrons, and by weeding old and outdated titles. The library staff uses their education, training, and professional judgment to curate a collection that reflects the changing needs of the people in our service area. For each area of the collection, staff follows what we call a collection description, which is a guiding document that includes the scope and purpose of that particular collection, the audience it's intended for, what the collection includes and doesn't include, what formats or bindings we purchase in, and which branches the collection is located at. Customized carts are based on selection criteria and parameters that staff have determined, and these carts are built and delivered to us each month by our primary partner and vendor, Baker & Taylor. These carts are used as a starting point to help the system-wide selectors identify all the current and forthcoming titles that are being published. The selectors read reviews online and look at print run, author name recognition, series, what's going on in popular culture, local media, local interest, and many other factors in determining which titles to select. Branch librarians order replacement copies and any additional copies that they want of newly published titles through a variety of other carts that are ordered on a weekly and monthly basis. Thank you. Okay, so moving into acquisitions, or how items get ordered. At Sonoma County Library, our purchasing policy states that the purchase of books, periodicals, and other materials are exempt from the competitive bidding process. The publications and materials marketplace is highly specialized, and vendors provide a variety of add-on services that libraries need. So we work with a variety of vendors to acquire our materials. In choosing a vendor, we look at many factors, including the depth and breadth of their inventory, the publishers that they carry, their pricing and discounts, their fill rate or their ability to fill our orders, their level of customer service, their online ordering interface, the proximity of their warehouse to Sonoma County geographically, their shelf-ready services, and any other professional services that they might offer that we'd like to take advantage of. We currently use 2 primary vendors, Baker & Taylor, which I've already mentioned, for print materials, and for non-print materials, we use a vendor called Midwest Tape. For all other materials, we use a variety of miscellaneous vendors, some of which are represented on this slide, as well as many local sources for materials that we can't get anywhere else. For example, the Last Record Store, which is a music store in Santa Rosa, and the Sonoma County Museum. As a last resort, we will purchase materials from online clearinghouses such as Alibris.com or Amazon.com. We also send library staff to local and regional book buying fairs, as well as international fairs such as Guadalajara, to purchase Spanish language materials. One major advantage to using a vendor that specializes in libraries is the substantial discount that we get. The more business we do with a particular vendor, the greater discount we get to command. With Baker & Taylor, our discount is currently 42.5% off of the list price for adult and juvenile hardcover books, and 40% off paperback books. With Midwest Tape, our discount rate for music CDs and DVDs is 25% off. Okay, once librarians have selected the titles that they want, the order's turned over to our acquisitions department. This is where staff enter the titles into our system, and a purchase order is created, including the price, quantity, branch distribution, and so forth for each title. A placeholder record will now appear in our online catalog, allowing patrons to see that the title is on order, and they may now place a hold. Orders are placed up to 4 months prior to the publication date. The acquisition staff place approximately 15 purchase orders per week for new books and materials. This equates to about 27,000 new titles and 95,000 copies per year. For the fiscal year we're in right now, 2018-19, our materials budget is $3,355,000. But you knew that, right? Because you approved the budget. Okay, the acquisitions department also receives the materials as they come in. We receive an average of 320 boxes per month, or 69 boxes per week. As our orders are filled and delivered, the staff unpack the boxes, verify the contents for accuracy and condition, place the materials on a library cart. As you can imagine, this is a very physical job, and it's a real team effort in the acquisitions department. After they're unboxed, the materials are received and invoiced in our Horizon system, and their status is then updated in the catalog from on order to being processed. So if you ever see anything in the catalog that says being processed for the status, that means it's at library headquarters getting cataloged and processed. Okay, cataloging. So the cataloging department is tasked with accurately describing resources and making them searchable and discoverable through our online catalog. Once new materials have been received, if it's a new title to our system, the item is routed to cataloging for staff to obtain a full MARC record. These fuller records will replace the brief on-order record and include such things as title, subtitle, subject headings, format, pagination, publication year, table of contents, a summary of the work, number of discs, song tracks, names of actors, directors, producers, illustrators, authors, editors, etc. All of this data is essential for our patrons to be successful when they're searching our catalog. Most patrons do a keyword search, so they aren't necessarily drilling down into the different indexes that we have. So we want to have really good data. In addition, at this stage, the item would be assigned a classification and a call number. For example, a determination is made that a work is appropriate for our adult biography collection or our juvenile mystery collection. Some works are very easy to classify, and others kind of blur the lines and can be more challenging. Sometimes we have very hearty discussions at our weekly cataloging meetings to nail down where something really belongs. For example, whether a particular graphic novel belongs in the young adult or the adult collection. The cataloging department maintains the bibliographic integrity of our database, always with the best interest of our patrons at heart and thinking of how patrons will be searching for materials. For materials that are ordered shelf-ready, the cataloging staff upload the records provided by the vendor and review them for common errors, making corrections as needed. Otherwise, these shelf-ready materials bypass the cataloging department and they go straight out to the public as soon as they've been received. More on shelf-ready in a minute. This is just an example of a full record that you might find in our catalog and all of the details that get put into a record. Okay, after an item is cataloged, it must be physically prepared for circulation. This involves many steps and varies depending on the format. For books, materials receive a cover, a barcode, a radio frequency identification tag, a stamp, a spine label, a bibliographic label, a branch sticker, a news sticker, and depending on the work, it may have additional stickers, such as a Lucky Day sticker, an Espanol sticker, or a fantasy sticker. For audiovisual media, the discs are transferred to a durable case that will withstand repeated use by patrons and many returns through our book drops. On this slide, there's an example of a 15-disc box set from PBS called The Presidents. This set literally comes in a cardboard box. Each disc has to be individually processed, artwork created, printed, and cut and trimmed for each case, as well as all of the regular labels applied. DVDs such as this, music, and language learning sets are among the most time-consuming to process, whereas most of the books are pretty straightforward. Okay, about 2/3 of the orders that we place are with vendors that provide shelf-ready services. What does this mean? These services include customized selection carts that I mentioned earlier on, carts that are curated by degreed librarians based on parameters that we stipulate. Services also include brief catalog records that we can quickly download from the vendor's website at the point that we're placing an order. Grid data elements such as price, quantity, and branch distribution that can be entered on the vendor's website and then imported into our purchase order in our Horizon system. Electronic order confirmations that are passed between the vendor system and our system so that we know an order has been received and we actually get a status update of each item that we ordered, whether it's been placed on back order, it's in stock, it's shipping today, that kind of detail. Continuing on with the shelf-ready services that vendors offer. We also get electronic invoices, which saves us thousands of keystrokes, and customized cataloging and processing services based on our local specifications. All combined, the value of these added services really cannot be overstated. We pay approximately $3.75 to $5 per item for these services. The primary benefit of using a library vendor for these services is our ability to provide new materials to the public in a timely fashion on or before a street date. If there's anything you take away from the presentation, it would be that. Without these services, we do not have the staff to catalog and process over $3 million worth of materials every year. Case in point, when our materials budget increased 65% last year, we were able to absorb that increase with only one additional part-time staff person because of the arrangements and efficiencies already in place with our shelf-ready vendors. And I see a question.
I do just a quick clarification.
Okay.
When you say that we pay $3.50 to $5, do you mean that if we were to do that ourselves, it would cost us $3.50 to $5, or that's included in the price that we're paying to the vendor?
So we pay the price for the product itself. Then we pay an additional $3.75 to $5 per item to have that product cataloged and processed on our behalf. So that's the fee the vendor charges us, the library, for that service. If we were to do that in-house, it would be more. With our labor, our benefits, our pay rates, our space, our infrastructure, yes, it would be more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions at this stage? Yes.
So regarding the periodicals, each branch gets to decide what titles or brands that they carry?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And Commissioner McKenzie, before we move on?
I should know what this is, but I don't really quite understand what a customized selection cart is. We get the carts from the vendors and we do carts.
Yeah, so you've shopped online, so it's a, you put items you want to purchase into an online cart.
It's a virtual cart?
It's a virtual cart.
Okay. It looks like a real cart.
No, it's not a physical library cart, sorry.
Oh, no, I understand what a virtual
It's like a online shopping cart.
It's a picture of a cart, so, okay.
Okay.
It's late.
Thank you.
Another question?
Following up on what was raised earlier, as far as each branch being able to make their own decisions about like the books that we see, so that's a written policy somewhere that I should probably know about or should be able to find, or how is that decision reached?
About which books that we see?
Yeah, when you walk into the library. So what I thought I heard you say was that each branch manager makes the decision about what we see when we walk in, or did I misunderstand?
Okay, so we have a collection development and management policy, which is a very high level policy. It's about 2 pages long.
Okay.
Approved by this body. And then we have collection descriptions, which are more nitty-gritty, how we decide which titles to purchase and which titles go in which branches. Okay. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a team of 5 librarians at library headquarters that are primarily selecting the new titles. Okay. And then the branch librarians are buying their replacement copies or filling in the gaps as things get damaged, worn out, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. And then this kind of dovetails when you just presented not too long ago about our lending policy with a national vendor about, and I'm raising it again just because I would like to have some thought at some point about the cost-benefit analysis of being able to go with the 2 major vendors that you described earlier versus going local, and how that's going to tie into what I believe is going to be the Commission's resurgent on building partnerships to include working with our local businesses. So at some point, this just might be my own question, if it's seconded by somebody else. At some point, I kind of would like to hear again a cost-benefit analysis on doing our business with national groups versus trying to keep it local and developing that partnership with local vendors when we're talking about getting Measure Y reinstated again in a few short years. Thanks.
Okay. May I step in here? I'd like everybody to hold their comments and questions until the end of her presentation. I think it would be easier for her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we were talking about the shelf-ready efficiencies, and I mentioned that we place about 2/3 of our orders in this fashion. We order the other 1/3 of our materials non-shelf ready, and these are the materials that we catalog and process in-house with our own staff. This segment of our ordering is purchased non-shelf ready either because the shelf-ready services aren't available, such as at a local bookstore, the Guadalajara Book Fair, or Amazon, or because we want the material in the fastest manner possible and we've chosen to order it non-shelf ready, in which case we typically get it the next day. This would be the case, for example, for a title that was kind of under the radar, but all of a sudden it's popped up in the press and everyone wants to read it. When an author passes away, often patrons immediately want to read all the works by that person ever. We sometimes don't have all of them and need to quickly get them. Or anything that the librarians at the local branch level have determined that they just need quickly, such as for an upcoming event at their branch. If we ordered everything non-shelf ready, which kind of gets to one of your points, it would cause an immediate and tremendous backlog that would impact our patrons directly. In my experience over the years, the 1/3 and 2/3 split works pretty well to balance the workload and the customer needs with the materials budget that we have and the staffing allocation that we have. So significant changes to that allocation or ratio would be either very disruptive or would need additional staffing, in my opinion. Okay, as you know, the library welcomes both gifts of tangible materials as well as money that's donated for the purchase of materials. Monetary gifts may be designated with a suggestion of a particular branch, subject area, or format, and we will honor those donor suggestions. Material gifts become the unconditional property of the library. If material gifts are not added to the library's collection, they may be given to a friends group or discarded. For both types of donations, the library staff makes the final decision on which materials to add to the collection. In support of our strategic plan objective to streamline work processes and operate efficiently, we've put limits on the number of gifts that we add to the collection. The library does not add gifts of media or gift subscriptions to periodicals. The gifts procedure was reviewed this fall by a staff committee and it was slightly revised. Currently, each branch may send up to 15 donated books per month to library headquarters to be cataloged, processed, and added to the collection. Items of exception can still be added in any amount and don't count against that 15. Items of exception include works by local authors, musicians, or performers, any rare or specialty titles that might be donated to our special collections, and titles that are not available for purchase from Baker and Taylor, such as books that are out of print. Once new materials are received, cataloged, and processed, they are put in our delivery system for transport to the branches. Our delivery system is comprised of several layers. The first is inter-branch delivery, meaning one branch of Sonoma County Library is going to send an item to another branch of Sonoma County Library. The inter-branch delivery is transported by our own delivery drivers, who are employees of the library, and canvass the county 5 days a week, making stops at all of our branches to drop off and pick up materials. All of the materials picked up from branches each day come back to library headquarters to be sorted. So that's the first layer. The second layer is our out-of-county delivery. We share our materials with our consortium partners in Lake County Library and Mendocino County Library. Our patrons get the benefit of borrowing materials from any of the three libraries without ever necessarily needing to visit them. Sonoma County's libraries drivers do not drive to Lake or Mendocino counties. Instead, we contract with a third-party courier service to make those delivery runs. Again, library headquarters serves as the hub for Sonoma County's materials. And there's a picture, if you haven't been to our warehouse at headquarters, where our trucks are coming in. Okay, now let's talk numbers. Our libraries only have so much space. Every item on the shelf has to earn its keep. An average of 13,000 items are checked in daily at all branches in all three counties. Of the 13,000, about 9,000 are items that were checked out and later returned to the same branch. The difference, the other 4,000, are items that were either dropped off or picked up by delivery. This represents an expansion of 44%. The value of this, especially for small libraries that don't have a lot of space, is incredible. But even large libraries also benefit. Approximately 1/3 to 1/2 of the items in delivery at any point are filling hold requests. The rest are returning holds or transfers for patron drop-off convenience. So when materials picked up from the branches each day arrive back at headquarters, they need to be sorted. This is a very manual process and labor-intensive. The picture on the left here represents incoming carts of materials waiting to be sorted. The picture on the right shows the staging area for some of our outgoing carts. So this is where materials are sorted and placed onto the appropriate outbound cart, depending on where they're going. When materials from the other two counties are dropped off from the courier, they are in no particular order. They arrive in gray crates and also have to be manually sorted. We're looking forward to an automated materials handling consultant helping us to look at the space and determine how automated materials handling equipment could help with this manual labor, both at library headquarters and at some of our branches. Okay, to round out our discussion about acquiring materials, we're now going to talk a little bit about deselection, which is also known as weeding, librarians' least favorite word. So research has shown that a well-weeded collection actually circulates more highly than when the shelves are packed. Have you ever gone into a clothing store or a department store, such as the picture on the left here, and dealt with shelves or racks that were overcrowded? We don't want our patrons to have this kind of frustrating experience. Sonoma County Library's weeding guidelines were recently revised, and training workshops were held for staff this past October on how to weed. Our goal is a well-weeded, attractive collection that makes it easy for patrons to find and select materials for checkout. Optimally, the shelves would be about 2/3 to 3/4 full. So you can see the picture on the right there. The shelves are 100% full. Since we are ordering approximately 8,000 new items per month, our goal is to weed roughly that same amount. Materials can be weeded for 3 reasons: poor physical condition, low circulation, or outdated content. By replacing grubby or outdated books with attractive new books, the collection becomes more appealing. Even perennial favorites and classics benefit from being replaced by clean copies and updated covers. Circulation can be increased by simply making the shelves look more attractive and user-friendly, even if there are actually fewer books. A well-weeded collection also builds public trust. Why, you may ask? Patrons expect that library materials are selected by experts and that the information in our libraries is up to date and reliable. For many patrons, the fact that a book is in the library lends authority to it. The public counts on the library to provide accurate information. By continuously weeding, we're making room for new materials, making our shelves easier to navigate, replacing outdated information with current information, and replacing worn copies with fresh copies. In building weeding into our regular routine throughout the year, we also avoid a large number of materials leaving the building at one time. What happens to weeded materials once they've been withdrawn? Well, depending on the branch, the majority either go to the Friends or they're placed in a bin, which is picked up for recycling. For audiovisual materials, unfortunately, the discs cannot be recycled. A recent poll of the branch managers showed that our Friends groups are somewhat divided in their interest in receiving discarded library materials for their book sales. About half of the Friends groups do not want library discards, either because they receive enough books, new books, that they don't need them, or because the discards don't sell very well, they've found. Roughly the other half of the Friends groups would prefer to receive the discarded books from the library to sell. In case anyone's interested, I can share with you which branches are in which camp.
May I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
I understand that visually it would be more attractive to have shelves that are not, 100% full. I also understand that mathematically, if we only had the most popular books on the shelves, they would circulate all the time. And if we added any books that were less popular, the rate would seem to go down. My question is, are you saying that if the shelves are full, even the most popular books that would have gone out more often will go out less often because people can't find them? Or just that the average is going down because we've got some books that are less popular?
I would say for like the bestseller, newest books that are typically in our new book display area, those would probably circulate just as quickly and hot as they do now. They're mostly driven by the hold system anyway. They don't land on the shelves an awful lot. For more backlist titles or things that you need every once in a while, research topics, things like that, they can be buried and difficult to find in full shelves, and I don't think that they would circulate as well if we didn't have well-weeded shelves.
I'm not disputing this. I'm just curious, are there any studies that show this? Is there any evidence that that actually
yes.
People will take out the same books more often off of a partially full shelf than they would, and that they can't find things if the shelves are full?
Yes, there actually have been studies, and I can share some of those citations with you if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move us along. We're almost done. So periodicals, which we've already got a couple questions about. Yes, we still have periodicals. This is an interesting trend. A lot of periodicals are actually going digital only or going out of business, but it's still a marketplace. Right now we have over 1,500 different subscriptions at all of our branches combined to either magazines, newspapers, journals, or microfilm. They are managed primarily through a single jobber, not Baker & Taylor. Their name is EBSCO, periodicals jobber that we use. The issues are checked in centrally at library headquarters, which is where they are mailed to. They're barcoded, labeled, and then routed from there to the subscribing branches. As I mentioned earlier, the titles that each branch chooses to get on their periodical subscription is entirely up to them. It's typically driven by their amount of space that they have dedicated, how much periodical shelving that they have, and they monitor the usage of the periodicals throughout the year and also take patron suggestions and requests for new subscriptions. So once a year, they have an opportunity to add or drop subscriptions, and we make those changes annually. Just a word to acknowledge our special and digital collections. This is a huge part of our collection. There's a list here of some of our special collections and our digital collections. And again, we spend a tremendous amount of time cultivating these. A lot of attention is paid to these. It's largely donation driven as far as the tangible materials, but not always. We also purchase materials for these collections. Okay, interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan is a service that allows patrons to borrow items we don't own from libraries across the United States. Items that are lent to us come with a due date determined by the lending library, and they can sometimes come with restrictions, such as the item can only be used in the library. We're grateful to the National Network of Libraries that allows us to offer this service to the public. And I'm curious how many commissioners have ever used interlibrary loan to acquire anything. All right. Link Plus is a new service that we're exploring, which would provide access to a wider variety of materials in a more timely fashion for our patrons. Link Plus is a combined online catalog of over 11 million books from 56 libraries throughout California and Nevada. With Link Plus, patrons could request any book or media title that isn't available from Sonoma County Library to be delivered to the branch of their choosing within about a week, which makes it somewhat quicker than interlibrary loan. The service comes with a patron-driven request interface and additional tracking features so that patrons can monitor the status of their request. When we launch Link Plus, we will still be providing traditional interlibrary loan service, but we anticipate a decrease in volume. With interlibrary loan, no audiovisual materials are available, but they can be borrowed through Link Plus. NorthNet Library System is exploring Link Plus pricing for all the NorthNet member libraries, of which we are one, and they may be signing a contract by the end of the year. NorthNet also has one-time money from the state to contribute to the startup costs. And you may recall that the commission has approved, as part of the surplus funds from last fiscal year, about $40,000 to the startup of Link Plus. So we're looking forward to launching that in the early part of 2019. And the best for last. So the focus of this presentation has been on physical materials. However, I wanted to conclude with a few words about our electronic resources. This is the fastest growing area of our collection, and it represents approximately 1/3 of our materials budget expenditures. We offer over 50 different e-resources, including full-text databases, streaming media platforms, and digital magazines. E-resources eliminate barriers that can keep patrons from using the library due to their busy schedules, lack of transportation, or accessibility issues. E-resources cover all subject and service areas that our patrons seek out at the library, including language learning, job-seeking support, Spanish language materials, consumer and business research, test prep help for all levels of school and many different occupations, legal information and legal forms, on-demand entertainment, historical research, support for K-12 learning, and much more. We currently offer over 200,000 ebooks, over 30,000 streaming videos, and over 50,000 downloadable audiobooks. Some of our top performing e-resources include Ancestry.com, Consumer Reports Online, Hoopla, ProQuest Newsstand, Overdrive, and Canopy. In the month of October, patrons checked out over 16,000 ebooks and 13,000 e-audiobooks for free with their library card. E-resources meet patrons at their point of need with 24-hour availability, flexibility in location access, and adaptability to many different devices. We're excited about continuing to grow our collection of e-resources, which is clearly delivering a lot of value to our community and brings the library into people's everyday lives, no matter where they are. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jamie. David? Thank you.
I have a question about interlibrary loan. Your presentation says these are free. I remember a year and a half ago going on to the website trying to make an ILL and was told there was a fee, like $5 or $10. Is the fee service a free service now a change of policy?
Yes, we used to charge for interlibrary loan. Now we do not.
Great.
However, there is a limit of 3 items at a time that anyone can have in the process of the request queue. So that kind of puts a cap on things, but we do not charge the patron any fee at all to acquire something through interlibrary loan. The only time they would pay a fee is if the item is overdue, lost, damaged, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a follow-up just as a possible patron. If the lending agency charges us a fee, we do not pass that on to the customer?
That's correct. We absorb that.
Okay, wow, all right.
Okay, Stephen?
Thank you first and foremost for your presentation, especially as late as it is. I heard your phrase, every material needs to earn its keep.
Yes.
And in reference to that, how does that apply to our archives? Because some of us have already been on that tour, and I won't steal the thunder, but somebody mentioned the fact that whoever is donating this stuff to the archives needs to somehow pay pro rata or for its upkeep, because as we've heard last month, the conditions are not great. So I don't know if it's you that answers that or how I would get that conversation and discussion going.
Yes, I understand the question. I don't have a spectacular answer. It's kind of all wrapped into the process we need to undergo to clarify the roles and responsibilities with the county and with the library. There's been a long-standing agreement that we are the repository for archives. Those materials are designated by the Sonoma County Historical Records Commission. The county provides the space. You've seen the space. It has issues. Does the same rule apply that everything should earn its keep? Yes. However, the written agreements that are in place currently that go back many, many years do not allow for any kind of cost back method. So we need to have that discussion with the county.
Any other questions? Okay. Deborah? It's down between, in the center right there.
Should know that. Right. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Back to the beginning. So every library does selection, and then there's also selection done in headquarters, yes?
Yes, there's system-wide selection done out of library headquarters and additional selection done at the branch level.
How many people at the branches do the selection, and how do the branches let the headquarters know what fabulous resource they've identified so that another library doesn't do the same thing? I know this is probably detailed.
Almost every librarian is involved in some shape or form in selection. So if we're talking about Cloverdale, I'm going to guess they probably have 2 to 3 librarians. That's how many. If it's Petaluma, again, I'm pulling these numbers out of a hat, but if they have 8 librarians, then that's how many people are involved in constantly maintaining their collection, including ordering new materials.
And how do they let their colleagues know that they've discovered a new thing that's in their collection now?
A new thing that they want to be ordered?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
How do they share the news that they are ordering this for their collection?
How do they share the news? So if it's something that we haven't procured yet, that they came across and they want to procure, they communicate that through usually email or phone call to the system-wide selector. Hey, I came across this. Can you please buy it? Probably other branches would also want it. And then it gets added to a cart and ordered.
So it goes up to the central. So the news goes,
That's one way it can happen. We also have what we call catch-all carts that are being ordered each month. Librarians can put essentially anything that they want into, and their fellow colleagues can see, what each other are putting into those carts, so they get ideas that way. They come across titles that they might not have thought they would want, but they see another library's ordering it, so they look into it and may or may not add to the order.
Okay, and so somebody at Central doesn't say, wait a minute, it'd be better if we ordered all of them? Something like that?
The only real distinction that we try to keep is newly published and forthcoming titles. Those are sort of the domain of the system-wide selectors at library headquarters versus everything else. Things that came out in the past or that they want to replace or additional copies of, those are more the realm of the branch librarians.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's additional funding that the branches have from Friends and other gift monies that they can use to augment their collection purchases. So they're also adding titles using gift funds to the various carts each month. For example, if a new title comes out and the system-wide selector chooses to purchase it for 5 libraries, but not for the other 7 because they feel like 5 is sufficient for our needs, one of the other 7 might decide, oh, that wasn't purchased for my branch, but I really, really want it. So they'll add it to the next catch-all cart with their branch discretionary funds if they want it that badly and get it that way. So it's kind of a hybrid approach.
Okay, thanks.
Barbara? Just quickly, thank you. Very comprehensive and very interesting, and it is the basis of what we do. So I really appreciate this, Jamie. I would suggest, in the same way that everyone has enjoyed the tours of the archives, a tour of the distribution at headquarters. Mm-hmm. I did it in the old basement part and then the new headquarters, and I think it's something everybody would be very interested in seeing. Do you feel like putting on a tour for the commissioners?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love to.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Jamie.
Thank you.
It was a good presentation. Okay. We're going to move on to the Roseland Relocation Program. Lana and Dave. And would you please hold your questions till the end of their presentation?
Okay, so we're happy to provide the Library Commission with an update of our progress on the Roseland Relocation Project since the November 5th, 2018 Commission meeting. The library has developed a letter of intent with the current owner of the 711 Stony Point Road facility, stating our interest in the 2 adjacent storefronts located in the Food Max Shopping Center. I met with members of the Roseland Coalition, Commissioner Zollman, and Santa Rosa Council Member Jack Tibbetts to discuss available support for temporary and/or permanent relocation site for the Roseland Community Library. I also met with Marco Suarez from the Sonoma County Economic Development Board to inform him of the library's progress in securing a temporary site, as well as to discuss community engagement strategies in the relocation process. As a result of this meeting, which was last Friday, I was also connected with Vince Harper from Community Action Partnership and have a meeting scheduled for December 13th with the Roseland Community Building Initiative, or CBI, resident leaders to inform them of the library's progress towards a new site. Interim Director Susan Hildreth met with the Santa Rosa City Manager on November 28th. And for the packet of information with this agenda item, you will see a memo to Benjamin Wickham from the Sonoma County Community Development Commission, or CDC. We are working on a joint proposal with the CDC to get on the Board of Supervisors' January agenda to address the $500,000 set aside by the Board of Supervisors in support of the library and Boys and Girls Club in Roseland. The information included in this packet includes the following: a projected timeline to relocate the current Roseland Library in June 2018, a breakdown of the current costs for 27 hours per week with a 5-year projection, one-time costs for the move to a new facility, and then finally, extended hours projection with staffing costs. So we have 4 projections based on the current number of hours, which is 27, and then we have projections of 42, 48, and 54 hours of service. We do not yet have a date set for the January Board of Supervisors meeting, but we have sent the information on this agenda item to the CDC, Benjamin Wickham, and they are reviewing it and will get back to us as soon as possible with the plan. And that is my update. Dave, do you have anything else to add? Okay. We're available for any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions? Andy?
Thanks very much for the update. I'm not familiar with the real estate rental process. What does the letter of intent do, and is there any danger that we'll lose the property or that we will not be able to move forward because they'll rent to someone else in the interim?
The letter of intent expresses our intent at no financial liability to us, and yes, we could lose the property. If another interested party became involved, they too would, nobody has the rights to that until a lease is signed. Does that make sense? So we're expressing to the owner that, yes, we are interested in this, but we're not fully committed yet because we're not ready to sign a lease. So they still have the legal right to rent it to whoever is willing to sign a lease.
Okay, and as a follow-up question, based on the discussion last month, it sounded like there were not a lot of alternative sites available that could meet our needs. Is that also true?
At that time, that was absolutely true.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Barbara?
Yes, I appreciate the detail. I do want to say one more time that, and I appreciate the fact that it is part of the verbiage here, it's the responsibility of partner jurisdictions and the Joint Powers Authority to provide the facilities, and that the cost of this at $12,000 times 60 months is $720,000. And the new information to me is the additional $353,000 for computers, construction, furnishing, and relocation, over $1 million we're talking about. That would be a facility cost that would be borne by the jurisdiction, not the library, the jurisdiction being Santa Rosa in this case. I know it's the clear majority of this commission to move forward, and I just do want to go on record again that this is an extraordinary amount of money. It is outside the basis of the Joint Powers Agreement that we operate under, and I really would like to have a written acknowledgement of some sort, whether it's a commitment or at least an acknowledgement from the City of Santa Rosa that if this library, our library system is going to provide these funds, the significant funds, that they recognize that it is temporary and will not going to renew a 5-year lease out at the end of 5 years. A lot of us won't be around at that time. It's kind of like these old leases on the rural properties. How did those start? And then they never end. And so that's my hope, is that, number one, actually, we need to run this by our general counsel and make sure that this is okay to do this, because it's not the premise of the Joint Powers Agreement. And then secondly, that we get a written acknowledgement from the City of Santa Rosa that they understand this is temporary. So.
Right. David?
Yes. As a new commissioner, I was obviously not present at the last meeting. If I had been present, I would have voted thumbs up on the concept of the FoodMax site, and I'm very enthusiastic about the follow-up materials, and I hope this will be a big success. Yes, this is a big item, but yes, we have a responsibility for equity to our patrons, to the patrons in this underserved area, to move ahead.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to, I meant to say this. I don't have one moment of hesitation to spend the money on the programs, on the staff, on the hours, on the everything else that it takes to fund a branch in Roseland. Not one hesitation. I'm 100% for it. It's providing the facilities, and we really need to understand the terms of the Joint Powers Agreement that we operate under and that we represent. Thank you.
Jason.
No, go ahead, Jason.
My only question is, at what point is it the new director's position, or when do we start discussing the permanent location?
So just a couple things about that. We're moving forward with this information to share with the CDC because we really want to try to understand what level of support we can get from the county. That's money that was approved for 1920, and we want to try to get that short-term money. I just wanted to report, and not to answer the question about the director, but I wanted to report a little bit about my discussion with the city manager. Now, Santa Rosa is facing a budget shortfall, as I'm sure maybe a number of other cities are. So the city manager, frankly, did not believe that paying for a lease for Roseland would be on the priority of his city council. And he wasn't the one to make the decision. He encouraged us, and I know our staff and our commissioners are working with the Roseland Coalition to really get advocacy going so that the Santa Rosa City Council says we have to have a building there, and if we have to pay for it, we have to pay for it. I have to say that in thinking about or talking about the permanent facility, I found more interest and potential support on the part of the city manager. He wasn't putting up money, but he knew that in the long run we needed to provide a permanent facility there, and in fact I think he was even considering that the city might be willing to take title to something. I'm not saying he was going to pay for it, but I had a more positive discussion about the long term actually than the short term. But I think we have to begin a plan working with the coalition and also hopefully with the foundation in terms of a plan for a capital campaign for Roseland. That's what we need to get started, and we need it now. I mean, we could wait for a new director, but it's already starting and we got to keep it going.
Thank you, and that's what I was going to say too. It's already been discussed, as Lana was indicating in the meetings, with Jack Tibbetts, et cetera. That's already been the verbiage. That's already been the direction that we need to just move on. Temporary is fine, but we need to talk about a permanent location, capital fundraising. Also, that's the reason why I referred to the business district. So if you're hearing rumblings about what that's all about, that's where that all originated from. So.
I guess my question is, who's the point organization?
For
Roseland, right.
Roseland
for this
Coalition.
library project is Roseland.
I'm just the liaison. I go and just listen.
The Roseland Coalition.
Yes.
Is the organization. And are they a city body? Are they an appointed body? Are they just a civic group?
They are volunteers, right, Lana?
Are they incorporated?
I don't know that they're incorporated. I know they're using the Sonoma County Library Foundation as their fiscal agent. I'm not sure if they're a 501c3.
I don't think that they are incorporated
And they
individually.
must be. We'll have to find out. No, they're not incorporated.
They're not. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to make a statement. We need to get the foundation moving so that they will work with the Roseland Foundation, Roseland people, because they have some very good people supposedly, but we need to really get people learning what foundation fundraising is all about. And that's why that little $10,000 we put in the budget in our emergency thing, that was good because it can hire somebody for a presentation or two to the foundation so they start learning what they should be doing and recruiting better people for it and people who understand that more. That's something we really got to get behind. Thank you.
And Director Hauser, I'll be working with the foundation towards that goal. So I just needed, we will be working towards that goal. I just needed to know a point. This will be a larger discussion at another time.
The one thing we need to remember is that when you talk to a librarian, interview and what have you, is that foundations generally, their sole focus is the library, not literacy or other things. The sole focus is the library. And that is one thing that we need to keep in mind.
I also want to say, I mean, we have, we meet with the foundation on a regular basis, and I will be in attendance at the next meeting in December. They did request, they have already expressed, some of their board members have expressed support for Roseland, and they requested, preliminary funding proposal for a teen area of the proposed site. So in the December 5th meeting, we can find out more information about that.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, it's 9 o'clock. We have one more thing, the strategic plan. It has been suggested that we table the strategic plan update until the next meeting. We have been at this for 9 hours now, and I'm fading. I guess everybody else is too. David? Okay, David makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
What was the?
Paul?
I second.
Motion to table the Sonoma County Library strategic plan update until the next meeting.
Because everybody's.
Okay, a second? No, it's a discussion. It's a discussion. So, okay, but tabling, we would have to move for it. So it's been motioned by David, seconded by Paul. Everybody in favor of tabling this until next week? Aye. Anybody against it? All righty, so it's tabled. Okay, agenda items for the commission meetings. I have the protocol for the email issue and the contact issue. That's one. Any others?
Update on the archives. I received another contact from the commissioner that presented the last time to us, and he was expecting an update on where we are with the archives on the agenda. And I said I would check. I understand that Commissioner Doyle is taking the lead on this, but if we need to have a fuller discussion, I'm hoping we can add it onto the agenda or somehow let him know what we're doing with the archives.
All righty. Okay, so update on the archives. Anything else?
Strategic plan update.
What? What we just
You
tabled?
said the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Darn, where is it? We're probably going to need just a small report. It could be in a director's report, but I believe today something was introduced in Sacramento, a constitutional amendment that might allow public construction, public infrastructure, might put the vote for the 55% vote back on the ballot. So we will probably want to hear some information about that at the next meeting.
Was that the Dodd?
No, it's not Dodd.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
Yeah.
Could I just comment that I hope the commission is aware, well, the commission may not be aware, but Sarah Ventries, our own public services division manager, is the chair of the California Library Association Legislative Committee this year. So I'm sure we'll hear all the news from Sarah.
Yay!
I hope she keeps us updated. Okay, anything else? Okay, so next meeting is Monday, January 7th, 6 p.m. in these chambers. And with that, we are adjourned. 9:01.
Maybe we can get Roseland with that money.
Huh?
Maybe we can get